Grab a cup of tea or listen as you go, ladies. This is your hour with Dr. Zoe, your life and relationship coach, with encouragement, on-point insight, inspiring guests, health tips, and advice. Dr. Zoe helps busy women keep their mind in the game by redefining your superwoman. You're listening to The Dr. Zoe Show.
Welcome to The Dr. Zoe Show, redefining your superwoman. I'm your host, Dr. Zoe. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a life and relationship coach, and a motivational speaker, and I can work with you online to help you get unstuck. Text the word STRONG to 38470 to connect with me. The topic of this episode is how girlfriends can save your marriage. But really, we're just chatting about the importance of girlfriends in our lives and how they affect our relationships. My guest is Deborah Olsen. She's a registered nurse, licensed psychotherapist, a speaker and teacher, and an author of The Healing Power of Girlfriends. But before we get started, my superwoman win and my superwoman fail. My win is that I am getting 2 massages this month, which is a lot for me. Although I'm pretty up on my self-care when it comes to other things, I'm not always so great about getting regular massages, but the real win is that I'm doing it with my girlfriend. Speaking of girlfriends, and so I'm killing 2 birds. I'm getting self-care and girlfriend time. So that is my win. And true fail, y'all, I am struggling to keep my workout consistent. I'm just struggling with it. It's the new year. I had some pounds to lose, which I've been doing, which is great, but I'm just not really where I want to be with my consistency with my workouts. So that's just a real struggle. I'm sharing it today. That's my fail. And now highlighting it and paying attention to it will help me make sure that I am working it out. So on to the episode. Listen up as we talk about your relationships and your girlfriends. Deborah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to talk about girlfriends, a fun favorite topic for me.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Thank you. It's great to be with you today.
Thank you. So before we get started, as I have all of my guests do, will you please share a superwoman win and a superwoman fail with my audience?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, the superwoman fail would have to be I was getting groceries for Thanksgiving, and this was a couple years ago, actually. And I was, running around like crazy trying to get everything for Thanksgiving set up, and had company coming, and I ran over to the grocery store to get a few more things, and I didn't take my big over-the-shoulder purse that I normally always take with me everywhere, my big sack, and instead I just grabbed my little wallet out of my purse, and I just thought, I'm only going in for a few last-minute things. I'm just going to take my little wallet, run in, take the little tiny cart, not the big grocery cart, and just get a few things in that little cart. I put my wallet in the little there's a little, almost like it's for like a phone or something. It's a little
that little
small
place.
area at the top. You can that little place. So I put my wallet right there, ran through the store fast, picked up these last few things, checked out, paid for my groceries, pushed this little tiny cart back out to the parking lot. And, I had just a couple sacks, but in just being preoccupied with what was coming next that day, getting ready for Thanksgiving, what I forgot to do, because I normally have this big purse over my shoulder, I'm not used to having just a little wallet. I left my little wallet in that little space on that cart, pushed the cart back up against the side of the grocery store building, went on home, got home, took all my groceries out of the sack, got, the rest of my things made for Thanksgiving for the next day. And several hours later realized, wait, where's my wallet?
Ooh, it took you a few hours.
My wallet
Wow.
was found it did a few hours before I even realized, because I was in the kitchen, but I called the grocery store right away, and they said, oh, yes, ma'am, a nice person found your wallet in the shopping cart. They turned it into security in the store, and you can come and get it. So I ended up running right back, and I did get my wallet, but several hours later. And I just think about that so often, and that all my credit cards are in there, my, my driver's license, everything. And it's like, so that's the last time I've ever taken my wallet out of my big old purse. I just take that big old purse in on my shoulder because that's my habit. So that was an epic superwoman fail. That was probably the biggest thing that I've ever done. It could have ended in disaster, but fortunately a nice, kind, good Samaritan saved the day for me.
Wow. Well, if that's your most epic fail, man, you are doing so good, because I do that on a very regular basis. And as my listeners know from my past Superwoman fails, I left an entire grocery cart in our grocery cart full of groceries in the parking lot. But I actually leave my wallet and phone regularly, which has helped me really just be in love with humanity, because people always find it and return it, and it's just so wonderful. But of course, we learn from our fails.
Yes.
So can you share your
We
win with
do.
us?
Yes. Oh, sure. I'd love to share that one. That one's a great story. So my Superwoman win would absolutely have to be something super cool that just happened to me in August. My new book, The Healing Power of Girlfriends, came out this past March. And in August 1 to be exact, which is National Girlfriends Day every
How
year,
cool.
August 1. Isn't that cool? We have an actual day for us girlfriends to celebrate each other. And on August 1, I was invited to be on a local television show here in Houston. It's like our Good Morning Houston show. It's called Great Day Houston. And the host of that is a lovely, lovely lady named Deborah Duncan. And I got invited to come on that show on August 1, National Girlfriends Day, and talk about my book and be interviewed by her on her show. So that for me was such an honor to be living something that I could only imagine. Like this was, I used to, as this book was coming out and I've been on this book tour this year, I've been dreaming about, wouldn't it be so cool to be doing something on August 1, National Girlfriends Day, to be doing something somewhere kind of on a larger media scale, something that's kind of different and that would be maybe reaching out to many, many more people in the media. And my dream was to maybe be on a television show somewhere. So when this opportunity to be on Deborah Duncan's show on August 1, I had to pinch myself that, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this dream that I've been just, really dreaming about for months. It's going to come true for August 1. So
you
that would be my
manifested
win.
it.
I just, I did. It was
Yeah.
unreal. Just, dreams come true. That's what I always say. Dreams do come true, for sure.
That's so cool. And yes, you manifested that. That didn't just happen. You worked and worked, and all of your years of putting into your work created that. So awesome. Wonderful win.
Yes. Thank
So
you. Thank
let's
you.
dive into this. We are going to be talking about how your girlfriend can actually save your marriage. Talking a lot through your book, The Healing Power of Girlfriends. I'm really excited to talk about it. So, especially, as I've been kind of changing my focus to talk more to women in difficult relationships, there's so many aspects of relationships that can make them difficult, can help when you're in a difficult one. And one of those things that is so important is the outside relationships you have separate from the relationship you're in. And so we're going to talk about girlfriends today. So can you tell me
Yes.
a little bit about how you got to this place of recognizing how healing girlfriend relationships can be?
Yes. So, well, in working in my practice, my clinical practice, Zoe, all through these last couple decades, I've worked with some couples, and I do a little bit of marriage counseling, not a ton, but I do some. And what I've seen in working with couples is that men and women, we all know this, we operate differently in our relationships, and men are more black and white, women are more they look at things in a more emotional way. They see the nuances that are there. It's not just black or white. They see all the gray. And so we come at things, male versus female, from a very different angle. And I've seen that in my clinical practice in working with couples. I've also worked with lots and lots of women because I specialize. I am a women's emotional health specialist, which means I have extra training and certification in women's emotional health. And
Mm-hmm.
I primarily in my clinical practice work with women. So I've had the front row seat for nearly 2 decades now to really work with women one-on-one. And I also run support groups with women. So I've seen groups and how the dynamics in female groups also operate. What I've really seen in this front row seat as I've watched all of these dynamics through the years with women, we women really have been designed by our creator, designed by God, to get together on a regular basis and celebrate our female friendships. And when we do that, we feel validated, we feel nurtured, we feel heard, we can pour out our hearts. We know that that girlfriend's going to hear us and validate us and be in the moment with us. And that's what we do with each other, with our female friendships. It's very different than the dynamic with a man and wife. And I've also been married for 40 years now. And so I know that the way that my husband relates to me when I tell him a story or when I pour out my troubles and my woes, he sees things more black and white, and he's
Yep.
not going to be able to meet me. Right? They
Yes.
can't meet us in that moment in the nurturing kind of way that a girlfriend can. A girlfriend just gets us, get each other, and it's a very different dynamic. So what is really wonderful about that is when we get our nurturing with our girlfriends, we get those needs met in that female to female relationship, and we get that love and that nurturing and that validation. Then when we do come back to our marriages and we're in that moment with our husband or wife, and we're talking and we're breaking things down, we may not get that nurturing, but that's okay because we already got it in our in our female girlfriend situation and our female friendship. So I think that I'm a better wife because I do have these wonderful, wonderful, deep, nurturing kind of female friendships. When I do come back into my marriage to talk to my husband about something or be in the moment with him, I come back a more whole, fuller, happier, more well-adjusted, grounded person because I have really, really good female friends.
Well, I know that that's true. And I've definitely had that experience in my life. And for my listeners who have met, in quotes, my best friend Rosie, I've been married 25 years, and Rosie and I have been friends for 18, I believe. And we often talk about how both of us, our relationship with each other has saved our marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
I hurt for women who have not been able to cultivate outside relationships. And I hurt for them because it puts so much pressure on their marriage to be everything. And it puts so much
Mhm.
pressure on them even to be everything to their husband. And
Right.
yeah, and it can stifle a relationship, actually. And when women
Yes.
get that, and sometimes, especially when women are in difficult relationships or dysfunctional relationships, they tend to distance, or sometimes the dynamics between themselves and their spouse makes them distance from their outside relationships. And that is actually the worst thing that you can do. What's
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because
Yes.
yeah, because just like you said, we have to be able to recognize that we can't get every single need met by any one relationship in our life. And that's why we were meant to be in
Yes.
community. So,
Yes.
as you talk about the healing power of girlfriends, I think back to this article that I wrote way back when I was in grad school, and this was in the very late 90s, 1990s, maybe it was 2000 by then. But and this, the internet was nothing like it is today. But I was talking, I
Mhm.
wrote an article, I think at the APA journal or something, about how times are so different now and how it affects marriages when it comes to women connecting with other women, because you know centuries ago women worked together. All of the work we did in taking care of families was done together. And now, of course, we work
Mm-hmm.
independently, and we don't foster those relationships necessarily in our work the way that we used to. Do
Mm-hmm.
you talk about that at all?
Yes, so I do. And I talk about in my book the whole notion of back in the beginning of times when women were in the hunter and gatherer societies, the
Hmm.
women were tending the children and the men were off hunting. And that's this whole tend and befriend notion that we now hear about. And that's where that all came from. And we women, that's one of the things we talk about. And I talk about when I do my book tour and my presentations to women is this notion of tending and befriending. That is how we've been wired. That's how we've been from the beginning of time. And when we grab onto that and celebrate that and practice that, we actually, now the research says, and it's very robust, the studies they've done are very robust, that we women live our healthiest lives, our happiest lives, and now, most importantly, our longest lives when
Wow.
we regularly and routinely, when we practice this notion of the tending and befriending, when we gather with our girlfriends and we do that thing that women do, we talk, we validate, we open up our hearts and our souls, we share, we cry, we laugh together, we do all those things. That actually now equates with a much healthier body, a much healthier physical body, emotional body. And when we do that and we practice that in our daily lives and we actually practice it over our lifetimes, we live longer. So the studies are really telling us, grab your girlfriends, celebrate those friendships, be with your girlfriends as much as you can. Don't give that up because you're busy, running this way, running that way. Make it like we book time to go to the gym. We book time to go to the grocery store to buy healthy foods. We book time to go to our doctors in our schedules to get our checkups and our blood work done. All of that's important to our health, but so is gathering with our girlfriends. And we need to put that in the calendar just like we do those other things.
Okay, but wait, we got to talk about the real, because the other aspect that I know a lot of women deal with, and especially a lot of women in my practice, tell me that they don't cultivate relationships with other women because of the drama. Because there's too much drama, there's too
Mhm.
much pain, there's backstabbing, and they're tired of the difficulty with women.
Yes. So drama is a real thing. And in my book, I talk about the kinds of friendships that we don't want to have. And one
Mhm.
of the things I say is drama queens are not welcome.
Mm. But what if you're the
drama,
drama queen?
drama queens, and if you're the drama queen and you're the one making the drama, you're probably going to need to get some therapy and maybe talk with a counselor or therapist about how to behave differently in friendships. Because one of the things that happens with drama queens is people burn out. And
Yes.
you'll find that with drama queens, people start dropping away from the friendship because they get tired of it. People get really worn out with a lot of drama going on. I'll give you an example of a new friendship group that I'm in where we don't have drama. And so I know that this is achievable. And I love to
Mhm.
tell this story when I talk to women because, we all know what it's like we know what a drama queen is like. We know what toxic friends are like. And people tell me, how do we find the people that aren't those things? And this
Right.
is what actually happened to me. This is my own personal story. A couple years ago, I moved to a new area of Houston. Houston's big, it's sprawling, it's the fourth largest city in the nation. It's a very large city. We moved from one end of the city to the other end of the city. So all my wonderful friends that I had made up there for nearly 2 decades are all back up there on the other end of town. I'm in a new area, which is an hour south. So I
Oh.
had to start over in this. Yeah, I had to start over with new friends. And I work a lot. I'm very busy with my family. So I had not put a lot of time and effort into finding a new circle of girlfriends. And
Mhm.
I also would drive an hour to go have lunch with my old girlfriends. I would say,
Mhm.
I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to go up there. Yeah, it's an hour. That's okay. I want to see my girlfriend. So drive an hour home. And finally, my husband said, you need to find some new friends closer because you're always driving all the time. And he said, keep those friends for sure, definitely, but also find some new friends that live in our neighborhood. So that next month, a lady in our area put out on the next door everybody's familiar now with the Nextdoor app.
Mhm.
You either have it on your phone or your email, and you get the wonderful emails about what's going on in your neighborhood. So this
Right.
lady named Cynthia puts it out on the Nextdoor. I'm looking to start a friendship group. I just want women to get together, go have a glass of wine,
Oh,
go
nice.
out for dinner, do some fun things together. She said, I don't have a large circle of friends and I'm looking to bring people into my life. Is anybody out there willing to do this? Within 20 minutes, she had over 200 ladies who emailed her back saying, I'm in,
Oh,
I'm in.
wow.
Imagine that. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us there's a lot of people out there who are lonely, who are isolated, who are disconnected from friends. And when somebody just went out on a limb a little bit and put themselves out there and said, I'm looking for a friendship group. Would anybody like to join me? All these women, 200 of them in 20 minutes said, I want to be in that group. Yes, I want a friend. I'm lonely too. Well, I was one of those people. I was in the first 5 that responded to that email. Fortunately, she had to cut it off at the first 30. She couldn't have 200. That's a
Right.
bit of a big group. So she cut it off at 30. And we are now, 3 years later, this group of 30 ladies, we
Oh.
are really close. We get together, we have a glass of wine, we have dinner, we go to each other's homes, or we meet at a local place, and we just have the best time. And one of the things that we talk about is none of us knew each other before. This was the first time all of us met each other, but
Mhm.
there's no drama in our group. There's not one single ounce of drama. We just are, I would say, wonderful people, all different ages from 30 something to 70 something. We come from all different backgrounds. Some of our wonderful ladies are actually from Europe and they're here because their husbands have taken a job in America. So we've got a diverse group. Some are stay-at-home moms, some are still working and they're in their 60s. We have a large, diverse group of different kinds of backgrounds. But one of the things that's clear to us is we all were looking for new friends. We were vulnerable. We put ourselves out there and said, I'm in. I want to be your new friend on Nextdoor. And we have 3 years later, this lovely group of 30 people. We have no drama.
So why do you
We
think you
don't
have
have
no drama?
arguments. There's nobody that's competing with anybody. You know, that's a really good question. And I think part of it is just the kind of personalities that we see in our group. We are all, there's no competition because we are all so different. We don't share, like, we're not all third graders. We're not all soccer moms. We're not all, women in a one workplace that all work together every day. We're very diverse. We all come from, a different situation. We're all very diverse people. And I think that diversity might be a really key element to this because it keeps the competition away.
Mhm.
And we also are there for other, if somebody's family member is in the hospital and they maybe need somebody to carry in dinner for them one night, somebody will find a way to reach out and make that happen. We care for each other. If somebody's having a bad week and somebody in our group hears about that, before long somebody said, she's having a bad week. What can we do? Can we take her out for dinner and let's see what we can do to help her this week? And so there's kind of an unspoken rule almost that we're here for each other to be helpful. And I think that kind of keeps the drama away because we look at each other more from a paradigm of we're here to make a difference in each other's lives. We're not here for any other reason. And I think that's just the paradigm that we've all embraced. So maybe
Right.
people are too afraid to start drama with that. I can't answer. I don't really know what the secret
Well,
is,
it
Zoe, but
sounds to
it's
me
something's really working.
yeah, it sounds to me like you're identifying it, that it is, diversity, the lack of a common thing that you guys are competing on, which I think might be a tip for women out
Yes.
there. Maybe find a woman who's not necessarily in your same industry, who, doesn't have all those similarities, where you would feel like you're competing with her.
Mhm.
But for the woman who's in a difficult relationship, maybe already, and recognizes, I really do need to foster outside healthy relationships. But maybe she's been burned before. Maybe she feels, kind of gun shy when it comes to seeking out other women and doesn't really know how to do it. It's hard to make friends,
Mhm.
as an adult
Yes.
woman. What advice would you have for her?
What I would tell women is, and I do tell this a lot when I talk to women when I'm out there on my book tour, if you're somebody who's been burned before, and you're just kind of gun shy about putting yourself out there again, what I would say to them, I would encourage them to go for it. What I like to remind people is, remember there's somebody else out there who's also looking to make a new friend. She's looking for you. Get out there and go find her, because we're not the only one who feels the way we do. There's other people out there who've been burned. There's other people out there who are scared to reach out and be vulnerable and say, guess what? I need a friend. I really am looking to start a new friendship. People are scared to put themselves out there a little bit. And we also go by what our history has told us. And if we've been burned, or maybe we're really best friends with somebody and they turned out to be a backstabber or be faced, and we're like, I'm not going to put myself out there again. Yes, it's unfortunate that stuff does happen, and that is life. I've had some of those things happen to me. But what I want to say is, don't cut future joy out of your life that you could be experiencing by having a new friend just because you had an unfortunate thing happen to you in the past. Acknowledge that, yes, this happened to me and it wasn't good. Acknowledge it, but then close the door on it and say, today's a new chapter. I have the rest of my life ahead of me. I want to have girlfriends, and find a way to be a little bit vulnerable, risk a little bit, but be bold. Get out there and be fierce and be bold and say, it's worth it, because the joys of that new friendship are so, so important to my health and my well-being. It's going to really make me happier and live longer if I can find those special friendships. So I always reframe it in those ways for people. And I tell them, she's out there looking for you. Go find her. Go find that girlfriend that also needs you in her life.
That's very true. I think it's also important to look at the concept of confirmation bias too when we are starting and seeking out new relationships. Because if your self-talk is such that everybody is, untrustworthy, or, people are out to get me, or relationships, girlfriend relationships just can't work, then you are actually going to create that in the new relationship. You will see it everywhere. And that's really what confirmation bias is where you see things everywhere because you have this foundational belief, and your brain actually ignores the things that are contradictory to what it is that you want to see. And so you've got to really get in control of your own self-talk and be aware that maybe you have this lens that you're seeing relationships through, and work on changing the lens, which can help with relationships.
Absolutely. That is absolutely key. I'm so glad that you said that, because that is really, really key. And that's why I did mention earlier, talking with a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor might, if somebody's really struggling in this department and they really need some perspective to come in from another place, an outside perspective of a professional, to really look at how they are really setting themselves up in this negative self-talk pattern, and it's really self-sabotaging their potential friendships from then forming. It would be so helpful to get the therapy to really dig into that so they can change that and really turn away from that and change that self-talk.
Absolutely. So once you've got some friendships going on, and then life happens, life always throws us curveballs. We get busy, we move, we have kids, they leave, things happen. How do you maintain
Yes.
a friendship over the course of time? And I say time because the reality also is that not all friendships are meant to be maintained forever. Sometimes they're in your life for just a season.
Right, right. Well, I do talk about all of that in my book, and that friendships come sometimes for a reason or a season, and that not all friendships are created equally. They sometimes are only meant to be for a small chapter of life, and then they go away. And what I like to tell people, there's a lot of people that carry burden around of a friendship that has ended. They carry that burden, and they come to me and they say, I have this burden that, this friendship that was so important to me, it's now ended. I feel like I did something and I'm carrying this guilt around. And so we talk about that. And in my book, I do mention that friendships are not all designed to be in our lives forever and ever. Some of them are really designed to come in, play a part in our life story, and then subside and kind of go by the wayside, and we move on and the friendship doesn't continue. That's okay. what we can do is reframe it and say, I'm going to celebrate that friendship for the part that it played in my life story. I'm going to acknowledge that. I'm going to embrace that and celebrate that and be grateful for that. And then let go the guilt, the fact that it doesn't exist anymore. Let that guilt go forever. So that's a really special thing. And I like to reframe that for people. The other thing I will say is I have a friendship framework that I've designed that's in the book, and it's got the different layers and levels of friendship from the outer level, which is the acquaintance, all the way to the inside, which is the BFF category. And what we know is that not all of those friendship levels play an equal part in our lives. The BFFs definitely are the people that we're very authentic with. We're very genuine. I like to say we are raw together. You're raw with me. I'm raw with you. That means just opening our hearts, sharing my fears, my secrets, maybe something that's bothered me for years. I don't have the courage to share with many people, but I share it with my BFF. And so that is a special treasured connection that we only have with a small group of people. And the acquaintances is the big group of people on the very outside of the friendship circle. And those people are the real superficial kind of connections that we don't really share deep stuff with. But each level plays a part in our life. So no matter the level, it all has a play, and it's a good thing. Right. Exactly.
So good. So good. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I've talked actually on the podcast about those kind of circles and those levels of friendships and learning, because I always talk about the fact that I don't think there's really any benefit for the most part to cut people off and burn bridges. And so when something's going on in a relationship or you're realizing that you need to distance yourself, you can just kind of delegate them to an outer layer of friendship, because sometimes those acquaintances are really important for your life for, in another way. But maybe they won't be your BFF where you're going to be, raw with, but you could still utilize them and you can still gain and give to them in relationship, even if maybe now they're not in your inner circle.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Right. So back to, how do we keep the friendship alive over time, like across, distance and all that kind of thing?
Yes, that's such a great question, Zoe, and I get asked that a lot. I have a great story to share with you about that I think will highlight how to do this. When I was in Playa del Carmen a few years ago with a really close, dear friend of mine, Kathy, who's in the book, we were having some time on the beach where we were just chatting, like we women do. We go back and forth and we just we just do this natural thing of chat, right?
Right.
And it's so fun. In fact, one of my ladies that filled out a questionnaire for me for the book, she answered one of the questions and she goes, we women, we do that thing, that verbal vomiting thing. And I love that. It's like, yeah, it is. It's verbal vomiting. We just kind of talk, and we just go back and forth. And so my girlfriend and I were doing that. We were just catching up on the beach that day in Playa del Carmen. And we've been friends since 1981. And in 1992, I moved to Texas from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where we were friends before. So we have not lived in the same state since 1992. And yet we have kept our friendship vibrant and alive and connected and close, despite years of not seeing each other, despite raising busy families, despite the distance of many, many states. Texas to Wisconsin is, you have to almost fly, because that's a big distance. So we have somehow kept our friendship alive and connected. And that day on the beach, her husband was there. My husband was there and her husband was there, and they were kind of watching us just laugh and talk. And her husband finally says, you girls, you ladies are just amazing. He said, you're like catching up where you left off the last time you saw each other years ago, and you're just talking away and having this great time. How would you say you've been able to keep your friendship connected and close through these decades, because you don't see each other all that much? How have you been able to do that? And we looked at each other, and Kathy and I just said, you know what? Not keeping this friendship close and vibrant and alive, not being able to do that was never, ever an option. We always said, this is important. It's a priority. And when things are a priority, we put them at the top of the list. And we did that with our friendship. We would send letters back and forth and cards back and forth through the mail. We would call each other. This was many years ago, before we had cell phones, even texting, all the stuff we do today with social media, none of that existed. So we would have to call each other on our landlines. We would
Right.
send snail mail. We would do all the things we could to keep that friendship connected. And, it worked for us. And we just felt that we really, really had something that we treasured. We had this wonderful close sisterhood. And I think of her as a sister. She thinks of me as a sister. And in fact, we call each other yayas. And
Aw.
we really consider each other, a yaya sister. And we just kept that friendship alive over decades, over state boundaries and all of that. And so her husband, when we got done talking about how we've kept our friendship going, he says to me, you know what, you should put this recipe in a book, because I think women out there would like to hear your story. They'd like to hear how to go about meeting these challenges and keep that friendship vibrant and alive and connected. He said, you think about writing a book about that? And so, of course, I did. And here we have The Healing Power of Girlfriends that came out in March of this year.
That's so
So it
cool.
does address how to keep friendships alive. Yes, it's a challenge, but it's so worth the effort.
Well, I think it's important to recognize that all relationships take maintenance. And sometimes we think, well, just our marriages or just our romantic relationships. No, every single one of our relationships takes maintenance and intention. They don't just happen, and they don't just,
Yes,
keep on going without that intention. So I think that's so important, making
yes,
friendships a priority and being intentional about our relationships like we are about
yes.
all other things in our life that we are building.
Absolutely. Yes. Intention is a really key ingredient. It's not something that's just going to happen all by itself. And I think sometimes we kind of expect that. We sort of put our friendships on cruise control.
Mhm.
People do that with their marriages too. They put their marriages on cruise control. And I always remind people that our relationships in life, whether it's a girlfriend friendship or a marriage relationship, as you said, it takes a maintenance checkup. We need to, just like we take our car in for a maintenance every so many thousands of miles, we take it in and we have them check all the cables and the plugs and the tires and everything. Well, we need to do that in our relationships, and our friendships are the same. We need to make sure that we're giving it what it needs, we're nurturing it, we're maintaining it, and that we do it with intent and purpose. And we prioritize that. If it's a Friday lunch date that you really love with your girlfriend, and it kind of, your pitcher is empty. When you arrive at that lunch, you're tapped out and your pitcher is empty because you've been pouring into everybody else all through the week. But on Friday, you get that lunch date with that girlfriend, and guess what happens? Your pitcher gets refilled from the top. And it's because she is pouring into your pitcher. And that's what our friendships do for us. Our time with our female friends refills our pitchers.
Absolutely. So can you tell my audience a little bit about the next thing you have going on?
Yes, I'd be very happy to, Zoe. The next big thing that I have going on is coming up in 2020 in March, March 22nd to March 29th. It is a seminar at sea cruise, which we are so excited about. It is called The Healing Power of Girlfriends. It is out of Galveston, Texas, and it is on Royal Caribbean's beautiful big ship called Liberty of the Seas. Like I said, March 22nd for a whole week till March 29th. We're going to cruise out of Galveston. We're going to first stop in Cozumel, Mexico. The next day we go to the Grand Caymans, followed by Jamaica, and then we have 2 days at sea. On those 2 days at sea, we are going to have our seminar, and I will be presenting information that is out of the Healing Power of Girlfriends book. I will also be presenting some new material that's not in the book. We will be doing some work together at our tables with round the table discussions in our small groups. We will also have some breakout sessions. We will have lots of wonderful girlfriend swag, which includes a lovely tote bag with a lot of wonderful gifts in the tote bag. Each participant gets one of those. The best way to sign up for this right now is to call Judy, who is our group travel organizer. Judy is at 510-638-7181.
That sounds like such a wonderful thing you've put together. I'm like, how can I get my friends to come March? Okay, got to figure that out. It
Yes,
sounds like a
yes,
blast.
yes,
And a
yes.
great
I'd
time
love
for
to
just
have you, Zoe.
thank you. And a great time for just some real deep intimacy with women. So thank you so much, Deborah, for coming
Absolutely.
on the show. I will be linking your book and the friendship cruise, the girlfriend seminar cruise coming
Awesome.
in the show notes.
Awesome.
So thank you for listening to the Dr. Zoe Show. I hope that makes you want to kind of go connect with your girls. And if you want to get Deborah Olsen's book, The Healing Power of Girlfriends, check the link out to her book in Amazon. And I hope you continue to listen. Subscribe to my show so you don't miss an episode. And I will talk with you guys over social media over the week. Have a super week.
You've been listening to The Dr. Zoe Show, redefining your superwoman, with your host, Dr. Zoe Shaw. Don't forget to sign up for her monthly newsletters to get encouragement, tips, and skills for keeping your mind in the superwoman game. Connect with her now at www.drzoeshaw.com. Tell your friends and subscribe to her podcast on iTunes. Join us next time for another edition of The Dr. Zoe Show.